Hey, everyone. Can y'all hear us? All right. It's called No Money, No Problem. We know it's like a little bit of a problem if you don't have money, right? So we're going with it. But we're really excited to chat with you guys today. Just want to make sure you can hear us.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go. Good.
Cool.
No money, no problem.
Hi, I'm Isaacson, the Chief Creative Officer and co-founder of Dig, the dog person's dating app.
I'm Leigh Isaacson, CEO and co-founder of Dig as well. When we launched Dig, we had only enough money to build the app itself. We used our experience to get the word out about the app for free. Today, we'll talk about finding and connecting with communities who will share information about your app. For us, one of those major communities was the press. Press helped share Dig to huge audiences. Knowing the best ways to find and interact with the press is a great opportunity, but it's important to know how to make sure your message comes across clearly and accurately, even once it's already in their hands.
Before Dig, we each had a few different careers. I went to art school, studied communication design, and worked as an art director at advertising agencies throughout the country with clients like American Express, Sprint, Virgin Atlantic, and many, many more.
I was a TV reporter. I was an investigative reporter in Syracuse for the ABC affiliate up there. I worked for One Africa Television in Namibia, and I was an investigative reporter in New Orleans, where it's really easy to do investigative work, almost too easy. I then got my master's in Homeland Security and Emergency Response Management and started teaching at Tulane, a class called Media, Terrorism, and Disasters. Little left turn there, yeah. It's fun to learn. I was the regional director of a large nonprofit out of Baton Rouge, the Coastal Conservation Association of Louisiana. And so what you can see right here is that right now I look nothing like what I used to look like as a reporter, and that's on purpose, especially the hair, right? Yeah. One major difference is the hair. It's purposeful. On TV as a reporter, you want your story to be memorable, not your wild curls. But when you're on TV for your business, it can be a different story. When you're on TV representing your business, it's all about standing out and being memorable while also conveying a clear message. I took my strengths as a communicator and my experience in the TV world and turned that into an asset for Dig.
We like to say, Leigh makes things sound good, and I make things look good. Together, our strengths are a real asset. We're able to get the news that they want in a way that looks and sounds good enough for the press.
We'll go through now how to build relationships with the press, how to pitch a story, and how to get all of that free advertising, and bypass maybe some of the mobile marketing you guys are really focused on today. First, there's one thing everyone needs to know and understand about reporters. They're really tired, they're underpaid, they're overworked, and so it's extremely important that you're connecting with them, but know that they're not your only options. What you're looking right now at is a picture of the newsroom, basically like a morning meeting. In there, you've got news directors, photogs, producers, the reporters themselves, digital content producers. Everyone's there in a meeting at the same time trying to pitch what they're going to report on that day. You've got the agenda items, like the mayor's press conference that everyone needs to report. But then everyone gets to pitch what else is going to be covered that day. And so you can have the reporters pitch your story if you reached out to them, but everyone else can as well. It may be much easier to reach out to a morning news producer or a photographer and be able to pitch them their story than one of the reporters. You can often find them really easily on Twitter or LinkedIn. They'll have a lot fewer followers and a lot fewer people pitching them too. So know that everyone here is an opportunity for you. Here's a case for not pitching reporters all the time. Someone took this really lovely picture of me when I was a reporter. You can see how happy I am. This day, I had to get called in to work a few hours early because there was a giant water main break flooding a bunch of streets in New Orleans. A reporter had called in sick that morning. I race out there. If you notice, those are not rain boots. Those are snow boots that I by accidentally grabbed. Those are not waterproof. And so I was standing there completely soaked, making about $24,000 a year, working odd hours every day, often way longer than 8 hours a day. You pitched me a story that day, I'd scream. I'm gonna be honest, not gonna take it very well. However, the producers are sitting at their desks, comfy and always available to answer emails. So just a nice little case for considering someone other than your local news reporters. And I am talking about local news on purpose. When you're pitching a story, I don't want you to discount your local news. They have a lot of connections, and your story can really quickly take off. In this example, Channel 6 airs in New Orleans. They're also an NBC affiliate, which means NBC National News can pick up any of the stories that they're pitching. And then once that happens, any NBC local affiliate can take the stories from them. They are also a Hearst television station. That means Hearst owns them. They own about 42 different stations across the country that aren't just NBC. So now suddenly all of those stations can pick it up as well. They're also a CNN affiliate, which means any other place that's a CNN affiliate can pick up the stories most of the time as well. Let's see. We were able to actually get picked up.
When Channel 6 in New Orleans did a story about Dig, when we first launched, it had ended up on almost all 42 TV stations, on all Hearst websites, giving us a huge boost as we launched on the App Store. Here's a classic quote that they tell Leigh in journalism school. If a dog bites a man, it's not news. If a man bites a dog, you've got a story.
Right, so how do you get on TV? Time to think like a reporter. You have to pitch them a newsworthy story. You're not just pitching your business in general. You have to figure out what is newsworthy. So newsworthiness ideally covers these 6 points. It's got to be timely. I had a professor say, if it's not new, it's old, and it's not called olds, it's called the news, right? Super cheesy, but easy to remember. Proximity, it has to fit into their audience. For TV news, that's literally a distance around their market. It also helps to know the demographics of their audience. For example, if you're gonna pitch a TV news producer for the noon show in New Orleans, know that they're usually catering to a much older crowd that's flipping back and forth between the Weather Channel, right? And so think about your story with that audience in mind.
Conflict and controversy. Are you disrupting a norm? Does not everyone agree with what you're able to say?
We gotta scroll down here a little bit. There we go.
Human interest. For us, this one is easy. Dogs rule on TV. Same with babies. Another way to think about this is in superlatives. Are you the best at something? Are you the first at something? Are you the fastest at something?
Mm-hmm. Consider relevance. How does this story tie into something maybe they're already covering, or something another city's dealing with that maybe they should be considering? Also, does it serve a legitimate public interest? And so for us, with Dig, the dog person's dating app, users can learn how to introduce their dogs to other dogs with the tips or tricks of the day. They can learn ways to go out on a dog-friendly date. All of our marketing features adoptable dogs from the area that we're pitching to. And so if you can hit on all these ideal points, you're in really good shape. That's better than most stories have. But it's also too important that this is the ideal scenario and that reporters are considering a few other major points. You also have to be realistic about the news business. This is the dark side, right? Realistically, reporters are pressured from the top down to produce stories that provide clicks and eyeballs. If you're pitching a story to a news reporter about your business, it's probably not a crisis situation. You have the opportunity to be the emotion of the story. So they'll look to you to provide something easy to cover, exciting, emotional, visual, that will lead to eyeballs and clicks. Make it easy for them. Offer them video they can download and use already of screenshots of your app. Have multiple people with different expertises lined up and available for interviews if they want. And realistically, they're gonna do the stories that are easiest for them to cover. I'm sure you've all seen this breakdown. Yes, being in our world. News stations know how hard it is to break into this data world just as much as we all do as we're marketing our apps. We all know, and reporters know, video is a great way to break through. Offer the reporters video they can use, and offer it in forms they can use on different platforms and actually size it for them, for Snapchat, for Instagram, et cetera.
Do the work up front for them. Push it out on their communities across all channels. We make video walkthroughs of Dig that can play on TV in different formats. We have social posts that they can use when that feature adoptable dogs and share information about Dig that they can post on their Twitter or Instagram when they're promoting their story that day. Be upfront, say, here is a video formatted for you.
You can post it easily on your station's Snapchat. Once you do that, most likely it'll make it on. Give them that extra push, and all that video is going to make it out there, and then that's how much more people are going to be able to see it, right? The ones who maybe didn't watch it on TV or read the newspaper that day.
No matter what, reporters know that video will help, and they'll often use what you give them. Even if it's a shot last minute on a cell phone, make sure to hold your phone steady and make sure and keep it horizontal for TV reporting. Absolutely.
Hugely important. Super annoying when it comes in vertical. They might not use it. You all likely know this, but I really want to hammer down the importance of video because reporters hear it all the time from the top down. They need to have video options for all of these reasons. We know video boosts clicks, leading to conversions and sales for all of us, and better ad numbers for them.
Free video for them is clearly a great return on investment. No time or resources needed if you give them what they need up front. Also, it'll help them with their own search since Google loves videos.
Right. TV stations are also trying to appeal to the digital-first younger crowd with their apps and their digital content. They know that video appeals to mobile-first users. Also, if you have an explainer video for them to use, that's less for them to write. We see most people post the walkthrough of Dig that we provide them instead of actually typing out how to use the app itself.
News stations also see that they'll get more shares when they use our video, even when just tweeting or promoting an upcoming story. They're especially happy to share the dog videos we provide them, which gives them a happy video or story to promote on their feed.
Mm-hmm. Reporters and digital producers are taught all of this. They know adding a product video to your landing page can increase conversions by 80%. Nearly everyone has watched an explainer video to learn more about a product or service, so it's not unique for them to have to post that. And in one survey reporters see, they know 76% of users say they would share a branded video as long as it's entertaining. And so even if it comes off extremely ad-like to you, if they think it's entertaining, they don't mind posting it. Check this out. This is my favorite example. This was a hailstorm at 2 a.m., which picture that. That's why you can't see anything, right? This is a video of hail at 2 a.m., and the local news station actually posted this video. If you look in the bottom left, 541 people viewing that at that time, right? They will post whatever you send them, no matter how bad it is, just to prove that they have it and to continue having content. This is my favorite example. Like, you think your video is bad, don't worry about it. Let them make that decision.
So what's important to remember when you're coming up with your story idea? First, what's the most compelling way to tell a story? Who would be the most interesting interview? And what would be the best visuals? Do your research. What facts can you add up front? Provide them with the facts and the sources for the facts. We have a full research deck we provide reporters and the pet and dating about the pet and dating industries, and they often take quotes directly from our deck. You can incorporate timely events and research into your pitch to make it more relevant. Also, go ahead and write part of the story for them. Offer catching lead sentences, or for us, great dog puns. And you'll often see your words taken verbatim. It's also important to double check your story hasn't been done already by the outlet you're pitching. If so, you'll need to change it up.
So the pitch itself.
The pitch itself.
Determine the best way to reach them. Where are they active? They're usually really active somewhere. A lot of reporters, especially Twitter, you can go ahead and DM them.
Start with their name and pronounce and spell it correctly.
Hugely important. Be personal. You're starting that relationship.
Tie your idea to other articles that they've already reported on, not your business.
You're suggesting the newsworthiness of the story and how it ties into things they've done. You can offer actual times that you're available so they can start planning their schedule even before they reach back out to you. Offer them ways to connect with you. You can call me, you can text me, you can DM me, because you never know what might be easiest for them as they're running around. And the most important thing for us is the press kit. I know it's like smallest on the screen, but it really should be biggest on the screen here. The press kit for us is everything. We use a really easy Google Drive link that anyone can make for free. It's really basically laid out with different folders. We have videos for them to use. We have pictures of us and our dogs, the founding dogs, right? We've got social memes that they can post of different dogs, and we always say the dogs are adoptable. And they can take that and put it right into their story. A lot of the times, you send them a pitch, include the link to the press kit right in your initial pitch. They may never reach back out to us and play an entire story just from the things we were able to provide them in the press kit. We have a video of someone interviewing me. We've seen people take that and pretend that was the interview they did with us on TV, right? They are going to cover whatever is absolutely easiest for them that day. So your press kit is huge. You've also got to make sure you're finding all the right outlets. This is some of the examples of the news we've been able to be on in the past few months. Consider all of the communities that you personally and professionally are a part of. In Dig News, reporters often start with how Casey and I are personally connected to their community. So if you look up at the Dig News from Boston, you'll see Leigh and Casey Isaacson, who grew up in Newton. If you look at the Philadelphia News, it's Leigh Isaacson, who was born in Philly. If you look at the San Francisco News that we're in this week, it's Casey Isaacson, who went to school at Oxbow up the street, right? So when you're pitching them, you're also tying into their community, because that's a huge part for them. Maybe Runner's World is interested in a story from a business run by an avid runner. Whatever type of community you're a part of, you can find a press outlet that can help share your story and be the actual connection to their audience. There's outlets dedicated to news from startups, religion, alumni group, and more. My favorite example of this is when we were in a Jewish newspaper and they actually tied in what temple we got bat mitzvahed at. I was like, whatever works, you know, we understand what you're going for. So think about all the ways you can connect with these different communities. Yeah.
Don't forget the news.
Make sure you're mindful of the news of the day. Don't pitch the New Orleans sports reporters the day that Boogie announces he's going to the Warriors. All right. Also, keep in mind what reporters are trying to avoid. And so, anyone know who this is up here? Why he might be up here? He might have exaggerated a little bit. This is called the 7 deadly sins of reporting. So reporters are worried about these items. They don't want to come off like they're getting information in a deceptive way. They don't want to appear to have a conflict of interest. They don't want to have a bias. They don't want to fabricate. Don't pitch them information that you stole off of your boss's computer. They don't want to be using a lot of these. Unless it's an investigative story, you're working with them, there's very little chance they're going to want to use stolen information. The good reporters, anyway. They're not going to want to burn a source, so they're trying to make a relationship with you guys too and not burn you and be able to work with you in the future, make stories easier in the future, and they don't want to plagiarize.
Advertising versus press. Coming from the advertising world, it can be hard to let go and let the press take control of the story. But there are some major differences you need to remember when you're working with the press. While we usually motivate people with catchy concepts, the press is trying to motivate people with facts. In the ad world, you can control the content. When the press takes over, they get full control over everything you provide them. Advertising can have some exaggeration, but in the news, the exaggeration can be deadly and cause viewers to lose trust. Important though, advertising is expensive, and the press is free. In advertising, you can have your message repeated and played often. In the press, you have one chance to be as clear as you can.
The last point here is that people really try to avoid ads if you ask them that, whereas people are seeking out the news and facts, so you're much more likely to have an active audience. When you do get an answer that someone's going to cover your story, you can do your happy dance, and you can start building that relationship. This is important to make sure your message is delivered correctly, and they may be a great resource for you to have additional stories in the future. So consider these points. Be respectful of the reporter's right to say no or have control over the story. Maybe they don't want to interview you, the CEO of the app, but they want to interview just a user instead. You got to let that happen. When you're talking to them, remember that they are very busy. Be upfront and get to the point about this press opportunity. No need for small talk. They're probably not going to answer you if you're asking them about the weather. They'll also appreciate your transparency when you say you'd like to connect with their viewers and do an interview to help spread the word about this awesome story. And this last one's really important. If you can't reach the reporter, please resist the urge to continue calling or continue emailing about the same story. They're not answering you for a reason, and it's time to move on. When I was in the newsroom in New Orleans, we would have people call every day about an event that was coming up, and it would actually turn us off, and as humans, not want to cover the story. So consider it. You tried it, didn't happen, move on. Pitch them a new story or pitch a new person. When you get to the point that you're going to be interviewed, be ready. Know that the reporter is going to use 8 to 12-second clips of what you're saying. That's on TV and in the newspaper. It comes out to about the same when you write it out. On TV, reporters shoot for a 1 and 30-second story. That means you have at most 3 8 to 12-second sound bites that are going to make it into the story. You can think about what ideally those would like to be if you got to choose them. Then you can tell the reporter something like, hey, I'm nervous. I don't want to forget to say these things. Can I get you my 3 main points right up front? They're probably really going to appreciate that. So you can actually change that relationship, and right from the start, as long as you're not nervous, just shake it out and say, let me just get these things off my chest. Here's a trick of the trade. Once they take that sound and they go back to the station, and either them or they pass the sound off to a producer to pick what sound's going to be used, they're going to choose the 2 to 3 most well-spoken and 8 to 12-second clips that they find. And so if your 3 points are up front and they have 2 minutes to write their whole story, they're going to take the best ones and include it. So you've got a really high likelihood of getting your main points into the story if you do it that way. You can also bring a handout of key information anytime you talk to a reporter. So if you're worried that the most important thing is you want to get a certain date out or you want to get a certain name out, don't bring up a brochure that they have to read later, but bring an actual handout of bullet points so there's no question and they're not going to get that wrong later and they'll have it in their hand as they're writing that story. Here's the important part. If you're not live, it can be really easy to forget that you can stop, reassess, and clarify what you're saying. So if you stuttered through one of your main points, you can say, hey, can I just do that again? And just keep it, they're going to really be pushing you. There's a lot of pressure there. They're going to be short on time. But you're in control once they're already interviewing you. So just say, hey, let me say that again. I think that came off wrong. And you'll be able to do that. It's hard to do in the moment, but if you consider that ahead of time, it'll help you with getting your message across. Make sure you give them your contact information and be available if they call and ask questions. That's hugely important. They're going to get back, and half the tape is going to have scrolled out of the video camera or whatever it does now, right? Like they're going to forget half the things that you already talked about them unless it was on camera. Make sure you're available to answer questions, and that's going to help you get your message across more accurately. Make sure you practice. You only have 8 to 12 seconds, but that doesn't mean you can speed through and try to get as many words in as you can, because they won't use it. You still have to speak slowly and fit your message just really clearly. Think about an old school 140-character tweet. That's what you got, basically, to tell a reporter. Don't do what I've been doing this whole time and control your hand motions, right? You don't want to be distracting. Try not to wear distracting clothing if you have that opportunity to. A lot of guys, the little stripes will kind of look weird, like zebra on TV, right? So just think about like plain colored clothing. Unless your message is on your shirt and you want people paying attention to your shirt, like Dig, the dog person's dating app. Every news story you see will have us wearing this in it too. But if not, don't wear distracting clothing.
Yep, we need to change the slide.
Did I do that? Okay.
Your 8 to 12-second quotes. You are in control. Be their emotion. Reporters won't use flowery language, so you can use your quote as the additional flowery language. Reporters like when you use superlatives. Are you the fastest? Are you the first? An easy way to help ensure that they're not going to cut up your sentence is by cutting out your commas. Talk like this to get your point across. Maybe you're using full sentences. Make sure you're using full sentences when answering their questions, or they're less likely to use the clip. You can repeat their question if necessary.
Okay, so an example. Casey, what is the greatest dating app out on the market today?
Well, that's such a good question. The greatest dating app out on the market today is Dig, the dog person's dating app.
Nice.
Thanks.
Yeah. The follow-up. Reporters are going to get things wrong. So make sure, no matter what, you're maintaining the relationship with these reporters. If it's not crucial to your business, like the name of your website, the name of your business itself, I say, honestly, leave it alone. You've got to weigh that relationship with the need to make them go and do a correction. This can be really hard, especially with some of your first press. But just know that people are only taking the main message away anyway, so really weigh that relationship. You can also work on building the relationship with that reporter by offering future story ideas that don't include you. They're going to appreciate it, especially if you know the way they work, and they'll be more likely to reach out to you for other stories as kind of the expert subject in that field. Also, make sure you're not over-pitching them. If they're not answering you, like, read the room, right? Like, they don't want to hear from you that much. Help them out by making sure that you're tagging them. They're doing the same thing we are. They want as many people seeing their stories. Their bosses are looking at it the same way. So retweet everything they're doing and tag them. You can follow up and say, hey, by the way, we put it on our website. This many people saw it. We have it coming out in the newsletter. Just as a way to maintain that relationship. And also, very likely, they're going to retweet whatever you say, too, because they've just kind of constantly be producing content. So you just have more opportunities the more you include them to get your story out. All right, we got a pop quiz. I told you guys I was a teacher, right? So if you were pitching to the news, which one of these topics needs more focus? We've got bicycles, the new Saints wide receiver, the next Mardi Gras most popular throw, and I'm told not everyone knows what that means, but like the beads, yeah, you can picture it. Okay. The oldest tree in Golden Gate Park. How many people think it's bicycles needs more focus? The new Saints wide receiver? The next Mardi Gras most popular throw? The oldest tree in Golden Gate Park. Okay. Bicycles needs a lot more focus. It's way too broad to be able to say, I want to talk to you about bicycles, right? So your story idea needs to be honed in right there, or they're not going to be able to know, like, what's the newsworthiness of this story. It's not the newest. It's not the most popular. It's not the oldest, right? Throwing in that superlative really helps. So you all fail. Just kidding. I was going to say anyone who had the right answer is invited to our event tonight, but now no one's going to be invited. But everyone's invited. Just to give you an idea, we create our own news by going around the country and throwing our own dog-friendly events. We make it new, we make it fun, it's different for each community. We tie into that local community by inviting as many dog companies as we can, and then we reach out to the local press. And so it is free, and wanted to make sure you guys know that tonight we are launching in San Francisco at WeWork Mid-Market from 6 to 8, and you're all invited to bring your dogs or come see the adoptable dogs tonight. But that's us. Thanks.
We have 1 minute.
Told we have time to answer questions if anyone would like to chat. Does anyone have a story idea they want to pitch?
Any cute dogs?
Yeah, we got dog people in here? No dog people.
You're
Tough crowd.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions about the press? You guys are all pros? Awesome. We were really good teachers.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.